Hello, folks. It's me, General Zada. Welcome back to the channel. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money taking. The man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying YouTuber in all of YouTube entertainment. And I'm here with Nicolas Cage. Welcome, Nick, everybody, to the show. Anyways, before I get into my spoiler review of Terrifier, I wanted to talk about something that's agitated me, something that I read on Twitter. As you guys know, I have reviewed, hello, Hunter, is the actor from Terrifier 3 down, wants to be the Joker. Yeah, I heard. But I'm just going to go over the Terrifier movie for right now. I got some things to say about this. And I'm going to be addressing that in my DC morning episode. So don't worry, Hunter, I will get to that. But let me get to something that I feel like should be discussed. So there's been a lot of people out there who have not been crazy about Joker fully ado. And I am not one of those people. So if you guys don't know, I went to see Joker. I gave it a 9. I said it was one of my favorite movies that I saw. And I stand by that. And I had a special guest on, Justin Proper, to talk about the Joker. He didn't like it. I liked it. The general consensus is a lot of people don't like it. So why am I doing this before my Terrifier review? Well, I read on Cody Leach's Twitter that there was people taking shots at Terrifier 3, talking about how could people like something like Terrifier 3, and that there's so much shit being thrown at Joker 2. And I want to preference it like this. I love the story of Joker 2. Some people didn't like the ending. Some people didn't like the story in general. Whatever. It is what it is. I think it is unfair, and I hate when fandoms from other places attack other fandoms. I am both a horror and, as you guys know my channel, a huge DC fan. And I think it is unfair to take two completely opposite movies and pit them against each other. I don't like the idea of people attacking other people in different fandoms because they happen to like something. And look, I'm a fan of Joker 2, but the statement that this person made on this Twitter thread was fucking stupid and asinine, saying, oh, people just don't understand the brilliance of Joker 2. No, people understood what the Joker 2 had to say. They didn't like it. Apparently, a lot more people like Terrifier 3. And that's fine. That's fine if you like something or you don't like another thing. But I think it's ridiculous, especially nowadays, where people use other fandoms and attack them in order to prop up another property. And it pisses me off because it makes people who are fans of DC look like a bunch of assholes. And I'm here to tell you guys, here in the Fandom Zone, I took a lot of shit for my Joker review, and I never once attacked anybody in my comments because people are entitled to their opinions. I gave you a review of how I felt, and if you didn't like it, I responded back respectfully and asked the reasons why. And I got a lot of good feedback, and I even got some people who liked the movie that agreed with me. But if you don't agree with me and you leave your reasons, cool, I will talk with you. But what I think is a bunch of bullshit is people attacking other people for a difference of opinions, because that's what we see with Hollywood and the media and things like that. And I think it's really ridiculous when fans are pitted against fans. I think that these two movies are different. DC represents a bigger property. Joker represented a different bunch of expectations, as Terrifier is more of an independent thing with a great underdog story that everybody can get behind and that I can respect. And I'll get into my things with Terrifier as I get into this review. But I would ask everybody out there, anybody who watches me, have some fucking respect for other people's opinions. Don't degrade them or demoralize them because of what they choose to like or dislike. I've gotten into many arguments. I like arguing with people. I like fighting and things like that, but I like doing it in a respectful manner. And I think that it's unfair for fans to attack fans. Like, if you love something, then defend it. Give your reasons, but don't just say, oh, this movie is going to make its money back. Like, look, the movie's not going to make, Joker's not making its money back. It's going to lose money. That's just a fucking fact. I love it, but it's going to lose a lot of money, and it's not recouping that. Terrifier is going to gain a lot of money. If that pisses you off, blame it on the directors. One made a product that everybody wanted to see. One made a product that very few people liked. They took a chance and they fucking failed. And that's what it comes down to for me. So I'll defend both movies. I like both movies. I don't feel the need to have to fucking choose between being a horror fan and liking this franchise or being a DC fan and liking another franchise. And if you're one of those people who comes on and says that, then you're fucking ignorant and part of the problem. People should like what they fucking want to like. They should be able to be passionate about what they want to be passionate about. That's the great beauty of the internet. So please, people, have some fucking common decency and respect. Show each other respect and respect each other's opinions. And I just wanted to give this PSA before I get into my Terrifier 3 review, because I've been seeing a lot of things on Twitter and a lot of different comments and even some people who comment on different videos and things like that. And it's like, look, be respectful. Tell me your reasons you don't like something. Tell other people the reasons you don't like it. Lay down a good argument. But don't just say some nonsense and attack people's tastes because it's not your thing. That's rude. It's stupid, and it makes you look like an asshole. So I had to put that out there because I've been talking about both of these properties, and I just personally found it ridiculous. And I find enjoyment in each of them. So to me, Joker is in DC, and Terrifier is in horror with the horror community. And I treat them separate as two different things. And I think people should treat them as separate things. I mean, the compare and contrast is fucking stupid. They're not even in the same ballpark. So I had to get that out of the way because it just really pissed me off. So hopefully you guys who are just joining, you can understand where I'm coming from with that. And hopefully in the future, people can have respectful conversations. And if you are being attacked or if someone is saying some stupid shit to you about it, things like that, you know what? Just fucking ignore them. Because at the end of the day, if that's the hill they want to die on, that's fucking sad. You know, I like Joker. I'll defend that I like Joker. It's one of my favorite movies this year. I have no fucking shame in saying that. But I'm not going to sit here and argue with someone who doesn't like it because you know what? I said in my review I understand. And I do. I get it. I get why people don't like it. But at the end of the day, that's what makes the world great. That's why entertainment exists, so that we can all have different things to love and enjoy. These are just my opinions, and people don't have to take them. Just like if you give your opinion, you don't have to take some fucking dumb bullshit. So I wanted to put that out there. So now let's talk about Terrifier 3. This will be a full spoiler breakdown of my future favorite Christmas movie. And I want to give some context to how I feel about these films. Now, Terrifier 1, I gave a 7. Terrifier 2, I think I gave an 8 or a 9. And this one, I'm going to give an 8 before I jump into it. Zod Snyder Burns blames James Gunn for Joker 2 failure. No. Snyder or Warner Bros. Doesn't blame James Gunn. I'm going to be covering it. It's Todd Phillips, but he already quit. James Gunn let it into the world. I'm glad he did. But at the end of the day, that's up to Todd Phillips. He wrote the story. He directed it. He did all of the marketing. He chose the actors. At the end of the day, this falls on Todd Phillips. But anyways, getting to Terrifier 3, I want to say the first Terrifier was only made for a couple of thousands. The second Terrifier was about $2 million. And the third Terrifier is in the $5 million range. And it looks like each and every time it broke its box office. So congratulations to Damien Leone. And congratulations to the star Lauren Lavera, who's made quite a name for herself as Sienna and the final girl. And I'm going to get in now into more details of my nitpicks I had into this movie. And then I'm going to get into all the positives that I like and really dive into a couple of scenes that I thought were cool that I'm going to talk about spoilery, because now I can give you guys details of why I liked what I liked or why I didn't like what I didn't like. First off, there's a big divide with this movie about the lore. I love the lore. If you guys don't know, or you haven't been on my channel very long, I'm about characters. And the thing I don't like about Terrifier 1, but what I respect, is much like the old school grindhouse, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and things like that. Terrifier 1 very much has no fucking plot. There's no story. Art carries that movie. And it's just this crazed, we don't know what he is. We don't know how he got here. We just know he likes to fuck people up. And so then you get into 2 where they start to build more of a mythology around the character of Art. Now, this was a big contention for some people. Some people like the story, some people don't like it. And I'm here to say I think that 3 is a happy medium. 3 is a balance between both lore and kills, at least for me. Now, some people who say it was boring. I disagree. This one is 2 hours and 5 minutes as opposed to the 3 hours and some change of Terrifier 2, which is quite an ask to watch for a brutal horror movie. So right away, I like the timing and the pacing of this film. And there's a couple of controversial scenes I'll get into in a bit. They break a lot of taboos that you aren't supposed to supposedly break in horror. There's like 4 different lines that they cross in this movie. I'll get into that. But I wanted to get into the different people. We have Margaret, Anne Florence, Bryce Johnson, Samantha Scafidi, David Howard Thornton, of course, as Art. And this picks up after the first film. And I want to get to the first shot, the most controversial shot. It was a big thing in the teaser. And so I like to call this Terrifier 3, fuck them kids. Dude, I've got to say, there's only like 1 or 2 other horror movies I've ever seen do this. If you guys have never seen When Evil Lies, that was another movie that did a lot of this. But Art fucks some kids up in this movie. Like, holy shit. And now here's the thing. I'm a father. I have a daughter. I actually took my daughter to see Terrifier 3. She's old enough, so don't be like, oh my God, why would you? My kid's awesome. She's old enough. But anyways, I took her to see Terrifier 3. But one thing that I like about this movie, and you're going to hear this a lot, other reviews have said this a bunch, but as far as the murdering of kids goes in this movie, I don't really know if you can say it's tastefully done, but there are different styles of kills. People who are the adults or young teenager, you know, the typical Hollywood teenage kids and slashers you expect to see killed, they get killed horribly. But with the kids, I think that David Leon, I think that Leon is very, Damon Leon. I think he's very particularly careful in how he depicts the violence. And it really shows a growth from when we got the first 2 Terrifier films. I also like to say that the cinematography is very clean in this movie. And I don't mean clean like it doesn't have a grimy feel. I mean clean as in when you watch Terrifier 1, it looks low budget. It looks like they were working with less amount of money. Whereas in this movie, it looks a little bit more professional. The dirty veneer that this movie has seems very intentional. The shot is intentionally have a yellowish hue, kind of has a grimy, dingy, really foreboding look to it because it's shot that way and not because of where they're shooting and their constraint is the budget. So that's good to see that the film definitely looks very good. The practical effects work is great. The opening scene, which is probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, you see Art and this little girl. They're waiting for Santa Claus, and they hear something on the roof. And then Art comes down, and he fucking goes upstairs. And the thing I like about this movie is they don't show the violence, but the sound design, which, by the way, the sound score for this movie is very good. The sound design, you only hear what's going on. And here's my thing with horror, and where I think you border from this being gory or gore porn into actual artistic gore, is that they don't show you so much blood and violence just to shock you. If you guys don't know, I grew up in the era of Saw. I seen every Saw movie in the theater, every single one. I was there from the beginning of that craze. And Saw to me felt like the franchise had no story. They had no direction after they killed John Kramer off. So they said, you know what we'll do? We'll make them as fucking bloody as possible. And then people will just be mystified by the gore. Whereas in Terrifier, yes, clearly Damien Leone wants to up the ante in these movies, but he also has a certain restraint behind the way he chooses to show his kills. So you get the first scene, and this is the opener. Art goes in, kills the brother, goes in, and he kills, of course, the adults, and that we get to see in great gory detail. But I think the funniest thing, and what sets Terrifier apart from every other horror movie franchise out there, is that Art the Clown, after brutally murdering these people's parents, they left out cookies and milk for Santa. Art fucking sits down, eats the cookies, he drinks the milk, and then he takes time to wash the plate in the sink. About me and everybody in the theater were dying laughing, because you just watched this clown dressed up as Santa Claus brutally murdering everyone, but he took 5 minutes out of his time to make sure the dishes were washed. And he even puts the plate in order. And then, of course, you cut, the little girl was hiding in the pantry, and they cut the scene so you don't know what happens to her. Some people can assume the little girl survived. I'm going to say probably not. So then we cut, and there's a couple of things I wanted to highlight here that I think they did well. And I've heard some things debated in this corner. I want to give my own take. I think the actress who plays Sienna is very, very, very good. I'd say this was her best performance thus far in this franchise. Lauren Rivera, I think that the way she plays this role is great. And I was watching interviews. She was inspired by a lot of different art icons, but mainly Mia was a big one from Evil Dead, which, if you guys don't know, I love the Evil Dead reboot. Is one of my favorite Evil Deads. To 2013, I think it was. But Mia was her inspiration for this. And I think as far as her acting goes, is so much better in this movie. She conveys this sense of somebody who's lost everything and is on the edge of snapping. Her facial expressions, the way that she emotes, the way you can see her trying to be normal again after this tragedy has happened to her, is, I don't think, given enough credit by very many people of how much acting is actually in this movie. And to be fair, there's terrible acting in this movie. I will get to that, and that's hence my point deduction. I think there is very much a lot of 80s acting, and by that I mean it's not good. It's not good. But I don't blame that on necessarily the actors or the scripts, or maybe it's just a feel. Maybe it is the actors. I don't know. I think some of the writing leaves something to be desired, and that's okay. You know what kind of movie you're getting into when you go to watch this. But I do believe that, in particular, Lauren Rivera should be highlighted as being a badass. And she might be one of my favorite final girls, Sidney Prescott. And if you guys know me, I'm a huge Scream fan. So that's a pretty high praise. I think she definitely has the chops to be one of the people we talk about for years to come in horror. About when you think about final girls and you're making your tier list for the top ranked final girls, I would see her being at the top 5 at least, because for me, it'll always be like Ellen Ripley, and then from there, maybe Laurie Strode. And then, I could see her somewhere in that. But, I mean, that's personal preference. But I'd say she ranks pretty high. David Howard Thornton. If this man is going to be the Joker in DC, I really hope so. I can see him being a great Joker. Although I haven't heard him talk because he does a lot of mime work as art. This guy, I've never in my life seen an actor express so much without saying a word. The funny moments in this movie, in particular, come from the way Art is so fucking sadistic, and he's doing these really terrible things, but can make you laugh, and then you feel uncomfortable laughing because of the scene that's going down. So I'm not going to give a blow-by-blow of the movie because I'm going to be doing a lot of different reviews with different people. I'm going to have a lot of different people on in the upcoming weeks. Me and Perp are going to do a spoiler breakdown too. But I'm just going to highlight some scenes that I liked. So I loved Art the Clown in this. I thought he brought it, again, to a whole new level. He was just too good. He was crazy, crazy good in this movie. And there was another person here who I thought was a good highlight, but is negative for me. There's a character in the movie played by Alexi Blair Robinson called Mia, who's a true crime enthusiast. And she's making a true crime podcast on Art. Now, this is one of the weakest points for the movie for me because I was super excited about getting a true crime, like we were going to deep dive. And Dexter did something like this too, which also frustrated me because it never got explored. But she's supposed to be this podcaster who has a true crime podcast who wants to get either Sienna or her brother on to her podcast. And I think they really waste the potential of this character because I thought that the character was going to be more intricate, or we were going to see Sienna's brother Jonathan on there, and there was going to be a big fight or something like that. And really this thread goes absolutely nowhere. And that's what I mean. Damon Leone's writing is super good when it comes to art, when it comes to certain characteristics. But I think where the writing kind of is let down, so far I'm loving the myth, and that stuff has a lot of details. But these little interesting plot points he kind of introduced, it feels like they don't go anywhere. Also, too, one thing that I did notice was that it felt like through the movie there were a couple of cut scenes. I could actually kind of feel where there's a break, where there should have been something, but we didn't quite get it. Don't get me wrong, the editing is good. If you're just watching the movie for the first time, you wouldn't pick up on it. But after watching this movie like 2 times so far, I could kind of almost see where the break in the editing was, like where Sienna went to get her sword. What happened to Jonathan? I'll get to that at the end. It feels like certain parts of the movie were clipped out, and I can feel where they're clipped. And when you're rewatching, I'm pretty sure you can catch where they clipped certain scenes off, where there was supposed to be another scene there. Now, some of it is okay. It works towards the surprise, but I think some of the stuff I would have liked to have in just to have more context. I mean, I put it together. I'm a smart cat. I don't need everything spelled out, but it did make the movie feel uneven at parts. My other big thing is Jonathan, and people have been talking about this. Some people don't think he's dead because we never seen Art kill him. If you guys know, it's towards the end of the movie. They act like Sienna, like Gabby, the little girl, was murdered, but it turns out it was her brother Jonathan. I think he's dead. I'm sorry, guys. Like, they had his glasses, so I'm gonna assume he's dead. But yeah, that was pretty good. I wanted to talk about Samantha Scafferdy, who plays Victoria Hayes from the first film. She's Art's new tether. And then I'll get into the lore, and then I'll kind of give you my overall final thoughts. But Samantha Scafferdy is very good in this movie. The Victoria character in the first Terrifier was prominent. She's the girl who survives, if you want to call it that. And in the second movie, she's kind of just mentioned. In this one, she has a lot more to do. Now, people praise and say she has so much to do, she's a real force, but I disagree with that. I felt like the Victoria character was so interesting. And once again, this is kind of something that's alluded to. But when you really think about the movie as a whole, Art is 90% of this movie. Victoria is in the very beginning and the kind of kicking things off. She was we go back to the insane asylum in the beginning. She's there. We go into them going into like a hibernation. When they wake up, they dual kill each other. She does something disgusting with a shard of glass while Art is killing someone. I don't think I can say it on YouTube, but let's just say she uses it on herself in a very personal manner while Art's killing someone. And it's pretty interesting. She also gives us a little bit of lore about what she is in the end of the movie, but she's at the very beginning and at the very end, and there's nothing in between. I'm not saying I needed a bunch of scenes, but I would have liked to see her setting more stuff up. For instance, I have no clue how she gets from where Art was in that attic all the way to Sienna's house at the end of the movie. It's never explained. So it kind of just feels like she drive with Art? Because when Art is killing people in the later half of the movie, she's not there with him. He's doing it all on his own. He goes to the mall by himself. He kills Santa Claus by himself. He goes and goes to the college, presumably by himself. And then all of a sudden, she just kind of shows up at the house at the end of the film. So that very much confused me. If you guys have any ideas of if I missed something, but I've seen the movie twice and I still don't understand like how she got from point A to point B. Like I assume she traveled with him, but like where was she? Was she in the back of the van? I mean, it's little nitpicks, but it's kind of just things that take away from the overall feel of the ending. So let's talk about the ending. I have two big feelings about the end of this movie. I fucking love the lore in this film. I think this is one of the coolest things since my boy Nick Cage. Okay, if you guys don't know, I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan. There's Nick in the back. One of my favorite movies that Nick Cage did is called Mandy. He fights a guy with a large chainsaw with a chainsaw. Coolest fucking fight scene, and I don't think it'll ever top it in my mind ever. I don't think there's been a cooler fight scene in a movie since ever, okay? Nicolas Cage fought a dude with a chainsaw who had a bigger chainsaw, right? But if I had to say another cool fight scene, the fight scene between Sienna and Art, where he has a chainsaw and she has the magical sword, and she's talking shit to him, is got to be one of the most amped scenes I saw. A lot of people in the theater were pretty hyped up. I really enjoyed her back and forth. She had a couple of cool, snarky lines. I think she said something to the effect of, fuck you, motherfucker, or something like that, but she made it sound good. She delivered the line very well. It was a very generic, common line to say. But I gotta say, this is where the actress really elevated some of the lines that were in this film. And like they get a good back and forth. The fight is very believable. I'm big on that believability in fights. They both take a massive amounts of damage. Now, I've heard this said, and I do agree with this statement. This Terrifier to me feels like Star Wars. This feels like The Empire Strikes Back. And this is my both complaint and excitement for what's to come. But at the end of the film, she kills Victoria. and you see her blood pool, and it opens the earth, and cute little innocent sweet Gabby is hanging on for dear life. Sienna has her magical sword. She just stuck it into Art. He's almost down for the count, and before she could finish the job, she has to go save Gabby. She takes the fucking blade of the sword and she holds it and holds out the hilt. And the little girl is trying to grab on, and she grabs it, and the sword is slipping because it's cutting into her skin, and she loses the sword. And presumably, the only weapon that could kill Art and the poor little girl are both sent to hell. And so she vows to find Gabby, and then we see Art on a bus and fucking with people again. He does the little horn thing, and that's the end. Now, I like this ending. It makes me want more, but at the same time, unlike Terrifier 2 or 1, it doesn't have much of a satisfying feeling for me at the end of the film. It leaves me with a shit ton of questions, and I'll get into my theories on the lore. But it leaves me with a shit ton of questions, and while it answers some stuff, it leaves a lot of other stuff left open. My other issue with this is I don't feel finality. Like, I get it. Art's, going to do his thing. Sienna's going to, I presume, try to figure out how to track down Gabby or get into hell. But like, there's no real ending. It's just like kind of to be continued almost, which I hate when movies do this to me. This is my own personal hang up. It's not even really a big point deduction for me. It's just I couldn't imagine seeing Star Wars years ago, Empire Strike Back. You get Luke, I am your father, and then they end it with him looking outside a glass, and you got to wait like 10 fucking years till they make the next movie. These movies don't take super long to make. I think we had like maybe a 2 or 3 year wait. So hopefully they're taking out time to flesh this out or whatever. But so we get that kind of ending. And, that kind of left me in a 50-50 spot. I like where they're going with it. I will be seeing the next one. I rate this an 8 out of 10. So I really enjoyed this movie. But just for me, I would have liked a little bit tighter things on this. So the other things, the kills in this, holy shit, the kills. We got kids in a shopping mall fucking blown up. We have rats killed. We had Santa Claus killed. It was just some guy who was Saint Nick. But that was probably one of my favorite kills besides the opening one in the movie. Art goes in and he's like looking and he goes, and then he points to the thing and he points at Santa Claus and he's like, "Oh, come over here, young man. Ho, ho, ho," that kind of a thing. And just seeing Art in there, and then he gets a drink, and I guess he's not a whiskey drinker, and he fucking spits it back in everybody's face. They get mad. He pisses on Santa. And now this is the one kill that actually made me flinch. Art built a CO2 fire extinguisher of sorts. And so he's got the dude who's dressed like Santa strapped down in a chair. And he CO2s various parts of his body, like by his ankles and stuff. And he smashes it with a hammer. And I think the thing that made me winch the most is these special effects are fucking phenomenal. You see like bone and like the stuff underneath, like they got down to the nitty gritty to where I don't wince much, but even the little dictator notice, I flinched a bit because I was like, oh man, it was gnarly. And then he takes Santa's beard, and when I say he takes Santa's beard, the dude grew out his beard long, so he took his beard to use as Santa Claus. The other funny part was there were kids at a mall. They're at a shopping mall, and the store Santa goes on his 5-minute break, and Art goes and fucking sits in the Santa seat, and you guys see it on my thumbnail, and he has this bag of toys, and there's a bunch of kids, and I go, oh shit, what are they going to do here? Like, get them kids out of there. And he starts passing out toys to kids, and I'm like, interesting. And he gives a little girl a doll, and he gives this little kid a football, and then the kids start rushing him, and he's like this, like looking, and it's kind of a little bit of an endearing moment. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be, there we go, some holiday cheer, some holiday spirit. Well, one of the security guards grabs Art, throws him out of the chair, and as he's sitting there yelling at him, telling him to leave, one of the kids picks up a box, and he goes to open it, and it's a bomb. And it blows up, I assume, all of the kids that are there, some of the adults that were in the area. It was a rather huge explosion. And I got to say, this is the first time I've seen in a slasher film a slasher villain who uses bombs. Very, very unique thing I've never seen in the slasher genre. Hey, what's up? None of your business. So it was very interesting to see Art employ these. Now, here, there's scenes in these movies that are iconic. So in Terrifier 1, you had the infamous hacksaw scene. I'm not going to say it on YouTube because they don't like it, but if you know, you know. It involved the girl upside down. In Terrifier 2, you had the bedroom scene. Say no more. You guys know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. So what's the big scene in this one? Is the shower scene. So the influencer I was talking about, she made a comment earlier about how she was really wanting to know what it was like to be a victim of Art's. She thinks he's the most prolific serial killer and all of this and that. And there's a funny little bit with Art going like, and all of this stuff. And so he follows these two, and she has a boyfriend. He's an interesting character, but not really in there that much. Boy, I forget his name. I think it was Cole. Yeah. So Cole and Mia go into the shower to, do their thing. And they're in the shower having sex, and Art is slowly revving up a chainsaw. He cuts the fucking little glass thing that's there, the little shower thing, in half. He starts chopping at Cole. Cole's hand is all messed up. His leg is half near chopped off. Kind of throws him down on the ground. Mia's sitting there, and she's screaming, and Art goes to town on her with the chainsaw, and then puts it in her head, takes it out, and she's still somehow half alive. Now, I'll give this a pass because it's a horror movie. Art's supernatural. I'm going to chuck it up as wacky supernatural shenanigans, but she's somehow still hanging on to life. And so he takes these goofy little glasses he's got, he takes them off, and he looks into her eyes, and he smiles, and then he puts the sunglasses on her eyes. And now, at this point, we're very uncomfortable in the theater, but people were chuckling. It was that very uncomfortable chuckle, and I'm not going to lie, I was kind of laughing too, just because of, once again, I think it's the way the kills are shot, and it proves you can have very gory kills and still have a little bit of taste to them, still have a little bit of artistic flair to them. And so after this, I'm like, okay, that's the big scene. We're done. Oh, no. So dude's naked, crawling on the floor, and Art chops off his leg. I say, surely he has to be done. It can't possibly get any gorier than this. He takes the chainsaw, puts it somewhere where you never want it to be, and he goes up and through the guy's back. And I thought, for sure he's done. My butt is hurting looking at this. There's no more. Nope. He then takes the chainsaw and he starts cutting from the part that no guy wants to be cut at. And you can see everything. And then he's chopping, and he basically disassembles him. And then in one of the most unique visuals, keeping with the Christmas theme, there's a pool of blood all over the place. Art lies in the pool of blood, and he makes a blood angel, and then he leaves. And so, yeah, that was pretty heavy. And I would say the final battle, or leading to the final battle, what he does to Sienna's, I'm going to say aunt and uncle. I want to say, I want to say his, I want to say her aunt. Yeah, because she goes to live with her uncle and aunt. What he does to them, he kills the uncle, hangs him up like a crucifixion, and he takes his guts and makes Christmas decorations with tree. And then the aunt, they do the old ancient medieval tactic of he puts a tube down her throat, pours like a rat down there, takes the blowtorch at the end so the rat runs through and goes inside of her until she dies. They say that this one is more nasty and vicious, and I say yes because it's not necessarily that the kills are anything that are going to top what you guys remember, but it's just how joyful Art is and just the different unique things that he does in this movie that makes they have a more vicious kind of feel to them. It's shit I would never think of and makes me not ever want to be killed by someone like Art the Clown because he is a sick, sadistic bastard. And so now I'm going to get into some of the lore and what I think it means, and then I'm going to get out of here. But yeah, 8 out of 10. Look, I don't like comparing kills across the series. I think each movie has their own particular style, and the kill matches the style of that movie. But I do think that, this kept a good holiday theme. It was quite entertaining. David Howard Thornton continues to be hilarious as Art the Clown, which really would make this bleak, almost hard-to-watch movie kind of fun to watch. And I would have to say the acting and the lore is interesting. So what's the lore? What's the big secret? I know everybody has questions, so spoilers ahead, and then I'm going to give you my take on what I think it all means, looking up some different religious icons and things like that. But, so Sienna's father was an artist who originally drew things about Art the Clown. And we come to find out a little bit more about Sienna's father that also bothered me not much, but she wants him to draw a picture for her of a female superhero because he does male superheroes. Yes, Nick Cage is always behind me. He's my guiding light. Anyways, so he drew her as an adult in the suit we see her in Terrifier 2. And I think, and I'm not sure, but this is my own interpretation of the lore. I think he's some sort of prophet, or if you look at it in the Bible of there are certain people who prophesize and set up for these different holy battles or these kind of good versus evil situations. I think her father knew she was going to be the vessel that was going to be used to take on Art the Clown, where Art is kind of a vessel for this demon thing, which Victoria kind of hints to as she's possessed. She hints that Art is their tool. And I think Sienna is essentially a tool for whoever the good in this universe is. And so for this ultimate evil, you have the ultimate good. And I think the father was the bridge between the two generations. And so we also get a visual in this of the statue of the Virgin Mary with this demon, and she's got a demon on the chain, but the demon is making Sienna's armor, which I assume had to be made by the denizens of hell to fight a demon that's coming to have her be the protector. So it's kind of a mixture of a balance, right? Because you can't have an ultimate evil without having an ultimate good. And Damon Leone has said a bunch of times how Art does represent the ultimate evil. So you need the ultimate good. as the counterpoint. That battle, Batman Joker, that kind of a thing is how I boil it down. And we get a lot of religious symbols, so I think this is a literal battle of two higher powers. I think you have this angelic presence. Her costume is of an angel. In certain scriptures, there are Valkyries that are women warriors of heaven, and I believe that she's supposed to be a representation of that. And Art, of course, is a demonic presence. I don't actually think Art himself is a demon. I think he has powers. I think he's a distraction. But in this movie, it's made very clear there's two different forces. There's this demon controlling Art. It's resurrecting him. It kind of uses him to make all these like distractions, and it's trying to possess these people. Now, the only thing I don't understand is that in this movie, the demon tries to possess Sienna, and it can't. She has a strong will or whatever and fights the demon off. And I was kind of confused as to if the demon wanted to corrupt the good warrior, Heaven's warrior, we'll say, in a sense, so that way it's like a corruption of the only opposing force. I don't know. It's very weird. But my interpretation is that the demon's ultimate plan is to maybe corrupt her to try to destroy good. I don't know. That's just the gist I got, because they also try to possess her unless it just needed to jump into another vessel. I don't know. That part's very vague. But it also explains the little girl in Terrifier 3. I think Art needs an anchor, and when he doesn't have one, it makes him vulnerable. So right now, Art could be probably killed, not very easily, but, he gets his head whacked off, he's gone. Until the demon that controls him finds another vessel to jump to. Art is basically invincible while has this other presence. Now, the other thing that I am intrigued in is, now that Gabby is essentially in hell, is the next Terrifier her going to hell to find this presence to save Gabby? Is Gabby going to be possessed and maybe be the next anchor for Art? But I think Victoria, the little girl from the second movie, I think they're all these anchor beings, these things that the demon possesses. And I think Art is kind of like Jason from Freddy versus Jason, where Jason was, he has his own supernatural things, but he was being controlled by Freddy Krueger in that movie. So I think it's kind of the same concept here. I think this thing is controlling Art to some other ends, and I don't know what the ends are. They don't really elaborate, but that's my own theory. I think that this thing wants something from here, and that's yet to be seen. Whatever it wants, it's using Art as a distraction so that it can go and do stuff over here while Art is causing mayhem and calamity. And I think Sienna is the counterpoint for the forces of good to detract from whatever that is. So it's kind of like she's dealing now with two foes and not just one. But Art also, too, doesn't have his tether. So, is he able to be killed easier? That's what I mean. It leaves a lot in the air. There's a lot missing. But from what I've gathered, it's a grand battle between heaven and hell, basically. And each side has chosen a warrior. And Sienna is fighting on the side of the angels, and Art is fighting on hell. And I think it might even be a thing of maybe it's a way that the thing wants to corrupt people, or so it's using Art as a distraction and it's corrupting these different people. I don't know, but it's very interesting, and it's why I like the lore of this movie, because it's very fascinating to me, and I want to see where the rest of the story goes. Should this go beyond 2 more movies, I could see this going to a Terrifier 5. Going beyond that, I don't think there's much story there. I think he's set up enough story to maybe do 4 if there's some left over 5. But I say you save your big battle, Sienna goes into hell and battles Art on his own territory. That would be cool to see. I think he can get the budget now. But, that's just some of my theories I have. So anyways, that is my talk Nicolas Cage watches always. Yes, he does. So that's my Terrifier talk. 8 out of 10. I really found it good. I told you guys all the points that I like. I think the acting was good. If Jonathan's character is dead, I kind of think that was a waste. I would have liked to see more out of him. I would have liked to see more out of the podcaster Mia. She was kind of annoying, but I liked the premise, and I think that got dropped early. And I really want to know more about this story. Like, where are we going? That's what got me so fascinated. Is okay, you set up a really cool world, and I even think that you could do multiple stories in this world, but where is the battle between Art and Sienna going? Like, who's going to live? Who's going to die? Are they both going to die? Are they both just vessels for these beings? Like, if they kill each other and then it all starts again, maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe you can't wipe out good and you can't wipe out evil. They just exist to fight each other. All that theoretical, higher thinking stuff, I'll leave it to better YouTubers. But I think at the end of the day, it is a classic story of good versus evil with a slight twist and a more sadistic killer who's so much fun to watch. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, hit that like, share, subscribe, all of the YouTube things. I just wanted to do my own in-depth dive before I get Perp on the show, and we're going to deep dive into more of the scenes. We're going to talk about what we think it means, where we think the story is going, and all of that good jazz. And I'm also going to try to talk to other people about this throughout the Halloween. Plus, next, I am going to be doing for every day of Halloween, I want to do a video based on an older property, and the first properties I'm going to do is one of my personal favorites. I will be talking about the retrospective look of Child's Play, the original. And I have a very personal and unique story about this, which I will explain when I do it. But I will be doing every Child's Play in the series leading up to Halloween. And I'm also going to be working on my top 10 horror movies of the year list. That's going to be in December, though. But it's going to be a very tough list. There's been so many good horror movies. How do you even do it? I don't know. It's going to be tough. And I'm going to just be through the season looking at different horror movies, different classics, and what kind of personal connection I have to them. Because certain horror movies have a very deep connection to me. Child's Play is my first one, and I've got a funny story for it. So if you want to see that, watch my next video on the classic 88, 89 Child's Play. No, I think it was 86. It was mid 80s. But I'll have all that when I do that video, and I just can't wait to deep dive into why I think that is a perfect 10 out of 10 movie for me. Yes, I give the original Child's Play a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite movies. I put it above Halloween and right up there with Jason. They're my two favorite franchises in horror, probably of all time. And I'm going to give you guys my reasons, so check that out. Anyways, thank you for watching, and as always, remember, there is only one rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before General Zod.